Okay, this is chapter 8, Sins, Confessions, and Spot. This is available, the first book of Christ for Atheists, available on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, Instagram. Buy it through Amazon for $20. Sins, Confessions, and Spot. In the summer of 1955, a friend who lived across the street from my grandparents' family cottage, and I offered a caddy at the beach golf course. During the round, Billy slipped his hand into the golf bag of the man he was caddying for and took out some balls. I was in disbelief and stood there in shock. Thou shalt not steal. Pretty obvious for any civilized society, wouldn't you say? In Exodus 20:15, Deuteronomy 5:15, it is included as one of the 10 commandments demanded to be followed by God. After the round, we were paid by the golfers and Billy kept the balls to sell later. It never occurred to me to do such a thing. Billy was killed in a car crash in his early 20s. I only mention this as a fact. Never did I believe that good behavior resulted in a blessed life. Good behavior and faith provides Christians with strength to cope with the struggles that they go through in a lifetime. In confession, one of my first confessions was, "Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. When my friend stole, I did not insist that he return the stolen goods." Father McIsaac gave me 2 Our Fathers and 3 Hail Marys for penance. I should point out that in many states, I would be considered an accomplice to the crime. Some states would execute accomplice criminals for lethal crimes even though they killed no one. I have trouble with laws that don't provide deterrents that aren't known until after the fact. Did I know Billy was going to steal? What if he had shot someone? Smugly, the holier than thou would state, pick better friends. Tulips. Not having electronic devices to keep us occupied or amused, we would use our imaginations to create entertainment. Idleness would result in boredom. We would not let that happen. When I was 10, I took a job on the Midway at the lake, working on the pony rides. My job was to take care of the animals and walk youngsters around the track on the ponies. I love the environment with the ponies, smells, dust, and the ruggedness of the workplace. I was in charge of guiding new staff on how to groom, saddle, and maintain the ponies in good shape with oats and water. I was showing an 8-year-old how to take care of a mare named Buttermilk, which he would be her pony to take care of. He asked me if he could see her twat. In my book review at AI on Spotify, they didn't know what a twat was. That is female genitals. I guess it's an outdated word. I grabbed him by the scruff of the neck and I warned him that we don't talk like that around here, you little pervert. He was crying. He says, "I just wanted to see her twat, I wanted to twack." This was an early lesson in life for me, for I shouldn't draw conclusions too quickly. One day they brought a beautiful chestnut-colored stallion with a black mane and white markings just above 3 of its hooves. I was not allowed to ride him because this new pony was high-spirited and difficult to control. While I loved to ride, I wasn't that good a rider. One day, Mrs. Ogilvy, a grandmother from a ranch nearby, brought her 12-year-old grandson in for a pony ride. On their farm, they only had wagon-pulling Clydesdales, and that wimpy grandson was from the city and afraid of big animals. Mrs. Ogilvy was married to a small pipsqueak of a man that she towered over. For whatever reason, she thought the world of her husband, and he could do no wrong. In the field, he would pull by tractor the haying platform to put square bales on. Standing on the platform, behind the tractor, Mrs. Ogilvy would pull the bales onto the platform with a hook and stack them, eventually over her head, before tipping the platform and letting the bales stand in the field until it was time to gather them on the truck. She could do this all day. She was strong and could hold her own against any man. I was given the task of walking the grandson's pony around the track, holding the reins. Me, being 10 and being a working man's son, I was taught to be tough and independent, so I couldn't help myself when I said to the 12-year-old, "A little old need to be walked around the track, aren't you, sonny boy?" The boy turned around to look at his grandmother, who was on the pony behind him, and said, "Grandma, this boy is affecting my self-esteem." I looked up at the boy and said, "Suckle." I don't know if they use that expression anymore, but it was used to insult anyone, any annoying jerk or idiot. So in this context, I used it correctly. My boss, Mr. Flanagan, was a school teacher and the operator of the pony rides in the summer months. He and his 14-year-old son operated the stable. He immediately came over and told me to take a break and got another young kid to take over holding the reins. I always took my breaks on the exit turnstile to get spun around as the patrons left. I like to throw out insults, so when the customers got angrier, so as they would be leaving, they would spin me around and around as fast as they could, as I sat in the middle of the turnstile. 2 days earlier, I had greased the turnstile, so it spun quicker and easier. As the 12-year-old punk went through the turnstile, I said, "How's the little baby boy?" And the punk spun me around twice. I knew better than to insult the grandma, who was boiling mad from my treatment of her grandson. I knew I shouldn't, but I said it anyway. "You ride like an old lady," with anger steaming out of her, with legs spread wide and her arms stretching to the right, grabbing the furthest picket she could reach. She pulled the picket across her body and pushed her arms far to the left, completing a 180-degree thrust. For 14 turns, I went around and around, getting extremely dizzy until the turnstile finally slowed down. I became aware years later that if you enjoy the sensation of getting dizzy, you probably enjoy the drink. Had I realized this then, I would have put more credence to my behavior when drinking alcohol. While I didn't go to the AA meetings, I did go to the on and on meetings, which was for men whose women's yap too much. I put this in for a yuck against my better judgment. That summer, no one came close to whirling me around that many times. For Mrs. Oglesby's efforts in spinning me around, she had the world record, which was never beaten in the 2 years that I worked at the stables. As the turnstile started to slow down, it stopped with me looking directly at the straightaway of the track, where I could see the chestnut-colored stallion with black mane and white markings just above 3 of its hooves. At full gallop and with neither saddle nor rider, he charged the turnstile, and there was no doubt that he was going to jump over it. At the last second, I dove off the turnstile, crashing hard onto the dusty ground. The wild stallion jumped and galloped onto the fairgrounds full speed ahead of Mr. Flanagan. Mr. Flanagan and his son, with lasso in hand, ran after him. After around 30 minutes, they returned with their wild pony. This happened in 1958, before lawyers and insurance companies discovered that there was money in blaming others for whatever misfortune you may suffer. In the AI review on Spotify, they mistakenly say it happened in 1955. It wasn't, it was 58. Insurance premiums to collect for protection or large legal premiums became the order of the day, and they continue today. With judges awarding huge settlements, the legal industry thrives, gaining millions in compensation against anyone with means to pay, and insurance companies gaining millions as people insure themselves against liability. Interestingly, these types of lawyers only seek damages for pain and suffering against people or organizations that have a healthy net worth or are covered with liability insurance. But this was earlier and a different time. Suing wasn't as prevalent in 1958. Mr. Flanagan came to see me and to see if I was okay. Because he felt bad for what happened, he said that if I liked, I could name the pony. I thanked him and thought about it for a minute, and then decided that I would like to name this beautiful brown chestnut stallion with black mane and white horsehair over 3 of its hooves, Spot. Mr. Flanagan was befuddled and asked me, "Now, why would you name such a pony Spot?" "Well," I said, After whirling 14 times around and around, the first thing I spotted was that pony coming down the straightaway right at me. Therefore, his name should be Spot. I asked Mr. Flanagan what would happen to Spot. He said that they will castrate him. It will make him calmer, less mean, and easier to train. He will be gelded. You see, son, testosterone is what differentiates men from women. Men have much more testosterone and women have much more estrogen. I learned later that most stallions face the same fate, as only the best stallions are left for breeding. I wondered if the same fate would happen to men who misbehave, although I didn't ask because I really didn't want to know.